Definitely. On my public statement, what I try to do was to educate the public of what I saw as the executive director at Mission 21. What we are seeing is happening in our area, but the average age of entry into the sex trade, into prostitution, is 12 to 14 years old, and that's the average age. So we would say that there are kids that are definitely younger, and there's youth that are older, of course. And typically in my area, I haven't seen kids that age being sold in the sex trade as we do with our teenagers who are being sold. But we definitely see those types of stories when we're talking about child pornography. And that is an extreme form of sexual exploitation as well. And so I'm not saying, we don't really hear a lot of children being abducted from our community, which is really great. I really think that we live in a very safe community, but still doesn't mean that it doesn't happen in other parts of our country, other parts of our state. And definitely it's happening in other parts of our world where we have a lot more vulnerable children who are experiencing different types of poverty and violence in their countries. So, in my line of work, the youngest kid that was referred to our program was 9 years old. And so that's, typically fourth grader, right? Fourth grade kid. But on average, what we're seeing at Mission 21 is that 12 to 14-year-old range of first being sexually exploited. Yes. So in our program, all of the referrals have been female. Although we hear from the kids in our program that there are boys in our community that are also being trafficked. Whether or not those kids are self-identifying, those boys are identifying as victims, I'm not sure because they're not showing up at our office. I do know that a couple of years back we had someone from the Internet Crimes Against Children Division in the Rochester Police Department who had said that sometimes there's a lot of the times that they run into images of boys online, again, in that pornography kind of a thing in our community. And so, and I remember his frustration in feeling, his job is done as an investigator in finding and recovering these children from these internet crimes. But, then he hands them over to other agencies that work to provide services, and he doesn't know what happens to them, right? Because then the story continues with other agencies. But we do know that there is a lack of supportive services for boys that are specific to boys' needs in our state. And so there's a national conversation that's happening right now about that issue, that it happens to boys too. And there's actually a study or a research project that was done in New York that now says that, before it was the majority of victims of sex trafficking were female, but now they're saying that it's probably up to 50% boys and girls that are being trafficked.